We from Brooklyn, we're scrapping, it's part of life. Right. So we happen to be the type of journalists to start a fight. I was raised in Gleason's, I was in the precinct, but I beat the case with my sweet peak defense. You drinking if you think you beating us. If I have to, I'ma put on Margarito's gloves. Don't do it. I'm in the Barclays like I own it. What you expected? The way I seized the moment, they thought I was epileptic. Damn. The fight game can't survive without me. I throw shots that make fighters spit out their mouthpiece. Never days off, only days on. Yeah. I represent the hood like I'm Trayvon. These moments in boxing are so proper, like when Floyd told Oscar he beat his whole roster. It's our action that speaks the loudest. Though we the sweet scientists, they ain't nothing sweet about us.
I'm Stephen Espinoza from Showtime Sports, and this is 50.com.
Okay, once again, this is another edition of The Sweet Scientists with Ak and Barack on This Is 50.com, where we dissect the sport of boxing in and outside of the ring and sit down with your favorite fighters, promoters, celebrities. I am your host. I go by the name of Ak, alongside my co-host, the boxing bully, Barack. And today we have our special guest. He's not a fighter, he's not a promoter, he's not a trainer, but without him, you guys can't see these great fights in the comfort of your own home. And a while back, I called him the savior of boxing when he signed a fight with Floyd, the 6-fight deal with Floyd. But it seems like he's back to the rescue in 2017.
You know, he's a fighter behind the desk.
Head of Showtime Sports, Stephen Espinoza, man.
Good to be back.
Listen, let's get right into it. You dropped the bomb a couple of weeks ago. A fight schedule, fights that we all, as advocate boxing fans, want to see, but even the general public wants to see. I mean, what was behind that whole press release?
Well, the first thing that we were trying to do is actually institute some organization, some logic to the whole thing, and do what every other TV network, every other sport does. I mean, we were talking before. It's sort of like, what if the NFL came in and announced game by game? You know, they didn't say, okay, here's the Giants' schedule. No, here's who the Giants are playing the first week. Wait until week 1, then we'll tell you who they're playing week 2. That's what we've been doing in boxing for a long time. So the first part is, let's see if we can keep everyone on the same team, pulling in the same way, which is a challenge in the sport. You know, and everybody keep a lid on it until we can do, you know, an announcement. And it's sort of like, we're getting to the point where 1 + 1 + 1 equals more than 3. So you do one good fight, you use that to sort of leverage and say, look, well, this guy's fighting tough. You know, I want you to fight tough too. Then all of a sudden it snowballs, and then you've got a big announcement, you know, 7 really top tier fights that we're real proud of.
How do you do that though? How do you have all of these personalities involved, promoters, trainers, managers, fighters, without anybody making a word?
It's exhausting, I gotta tell you, because, you know, that's a mistake the sport has been making. You know, people, and I get it, you know, if you're a fighter, you're a promoter, you're a manager, the inclination, you make a fight, you want to tell everybody about it, especially on the fighter end. You know, first thing, you want to go to social media, tell your fans. But, you know, again, you know, you talk about the NBA, you know, you don't have, you know, the Lakers getting excited and releasing their schedule before the rest of the league. Everyone keeps it quiet. I'm sure the Cavaliers were excited about their opening game, and so were the Warriors. But everyone keeps it quiet, and then one day the league releases the schedule, you know, and then everybody. So it's a series of those conversations, and actually the dam started to break, which is why we released it when we did, to some extent, because we were hoping to get Joshua as part of the announcement. But then, you know, one guy, you know, sends a tweet, another guy does an interview, you know, in England, then all of a sudden, you know, the dam is showing cracks, and we're like, okay, this thing's about to collapse. We got to put the announcement out there, otherwise we're just going to lose all the value of it.
Right. I think this is a win-win for the fans, because it's not like every other sport where you know where the Lakers are playing.
Right.
You know, but you don't know where these boxers are fighting, and you don't know when. So if you give them some time in advance to make these flights, make the hotels, you know, and just prepare themselves to watch these fights, then that's a win-win.
But then you don't have all the venues yet, but dates are set.
Yeah, we've got the venues about set just about now. But, you know, to your point, you know, we have Abner Mares and Cuellar fighting, two of the best guys at 126. Well, we also know in the calendar we have Frampton and Santa Cruz. also fighting on 126. So now there's some perspective to the sport. I mean, I think that's the fight of the year. I think that's the fight of the year for me. I'm not objective, but
I just hope Thurman and Garcia's in the Barclays Center.
You know what? It's a definite possibility. You know, it is. You know, both of those guys are at home there, and I just think the crowd there would be amazing.
What fight intrigues you the most?
You know, it's sort of like choosing among your children. It's tough. You know,
Well, I know which child.
yeah.
You already know.
Right. We're proud of all of them. Look, I think two that are sort of maybe I'll say underrated. Mikey Garcia, who is, you know, I think he's already should be in the conversation for top 10 pound for pound.
A beast.
And
one of my favorite fighters.
Is taking on the one guy at 135 pounds that no one wants to fight. Zlatichinin, who just has destroyed his last two title challengers. And Mikey, you know, didn't want any warm-ups, any tune-ups. You know, fans have been complaining about that kind of thing. He said, nah, he's like, one fight back, then give me the title.
And for those who don't know, Mikey Garcia is another guy you need to look up. He had a 2-year layoff, right? It was about 2 years.
Yeah, contractual
stuff. Do you think that hurt him at all after seeing him his last fight?
He certainly didn't show in the last fight. And at a certain point, you look at like a guy like Bernard Hopkins, you know, he's still going at 51. And you wonder, you know, he doesn't have a lot of the wear and tear younger on his body that some of these other fighters have. So, you know, is it a terrible thing for, you know, Mikey to have done 30 fights, take a 2-year break, and come back? I mean, maybe you got little nicks and little bumps and bruises here. We know he's healthy and he's strong. He's certainly like intent on taking it, you know, all the way to the top.
You know, no fighter says that they truthfully ever go into a fight 100%, so maybe that got him back closer to 100% physically.
Yeah, I think that's the case, because you looked at that last fight and he looked as sharp as he ever has. You know, so I think that's one. The other one I think is underrated, Broner versus Adrian Granados.
Well, that kid beat Amir Imam, so I know he
was a big prospect.
He's a big prospect. And you look at him, and he's sort of, first of all, it's a great style matchup. It's sort of like, it's those classic Mexican style fighters, prototypical fighters. Granados is just tough guy, doesn't stop.
Which is the type of guy that Broner has trouble with.
Yeah, we saw that in the Maidana fight.
I said that because the narrative is that those are the two fights that might not be competitive, the ones you mentioned, and they might be sleepers. Like,
yeah, I think so, because on that one, look, you look on paper and you see Granados is 18-4-2. You know, his 4 losses, you know, the guys that he lost to are combined 52-1.
Tevin Farmer has 4 losses.
Right, yes, that's right. So, you know, he's a guy, he's almost the opposite of Broner, because Granados never really had a promoter behind him. So he was the opponent. He's 7-0. He's the guy fighting the star. Right. So that's how you end up 18-4-2 and still a really good fighter, because you never had a promoter giving you the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, you got nothing to lose. You're scary anyway.
Right. You know, and you know, you'll see, you know, kid's really likable. He's not scared of the moment at all. Right. He fought a brutal fight against Amir Imam, who, you know, somebody I liked a lot. And, you know, that's what earned him a shot against Broner.
I like Badu Jack DeGale. Badu Jack has grown on me as a fighter. I thought he won against Lucien Boutte, and that's a fight that I'm actually really looking forward to seeing.
Well, Badu is a guy who just figures out how to win. Right. Like right now, he's sort of like, you know, you look up and it's like the Raiders. The Raiders every week, you're like, oh, they're going to lose this week. You wake up, they find a way to win every single week.
Like Mikey Garcia.
Yeah.
When he beat Darrell. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how he keeps stepping up. Same for DeGale. DeGale, you know, came in. Not a lot of people thought a lot of him, but he keeps winning too.
But you would say that the Danny Garcia Thurman fight would probably be the most popular in that batch. I mean, at least that's what's going on around. But Danny still has to win his next upcoming fight.
You know,
his
you
tune-up fight.
can't take anything for granted in this sport. Yeah, there's that little possibility. So you can't look past it. But you know,
Vargas
I hope
knows he's there to lose.
you know.
Vargas, you know you're there to lose.
You're right. You know, you're right.
don't
That's Danny's
underestimate
plan.
anybody. That's this guy
But
talking.
Remember when Oscar De La Hoya was supposed to fight Bernard Hopkins?
then the Felix Sturm.
Felix Sturm
Yeah.
whooped Oscar De La Hoya's behind.
And you saw what happened.
$10 million is a little bit bigger than Felix Sturm.
Getting that Vargas.
Yeah, look, things don't always go. That's the problem with you know, tune-ups, stay sharps, the interim fights.
In other words, even if you knock him out, you're still not going to give a decision.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, he should get past him.
You know, you remember, you know, going back, you remember we were setting up this fight. It was going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Victor Ortiz.
Right.
I remember.
And then Victor had a late substitute.
Josecito.
Yeah, and everyone's like, who's this guy, Josecito Lopez?
Right.
And the next thing you know, Victor's got a broken jaw,
Right,
and
right,
the fight is stopped, and all of a sudden, everybody knows who Josecito Lopez is.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what's great about the sport.
Anthony Joshua, who's with Showtime, colorful guy. Can't wait to see him fight in this country. What do you have to say about him?
You know, he's a guy who, he's got all the tools, and maybe as most importantly, he looks the part. You know, for someone who is going to be heavyweight champion of the world, I think part of what boxing is up for him, a lot of these guys don't look like, you know, what a heavyweight champion is supposed to look like. I mean, you look at Deontay Wilder and you say, that's what heavy, if you're gonna write a movie, you're gonna cast a movie, that's what it looks like. Right. You know, you look at Anthony Joshua and he's well-spoken, he's got the gold medal, you know, he sells out the O2 Arena in London, you know, really, really nice kid, has the Under Armour deal. You know, he's got everything together. You know, I can't wait to get him over to the U.S. because right now he's still sort of undercover. But once he gets here, it's not going to stay a secret for very long.
So when you got two guys like that who can actually be the face of boxing, how do you choose?
You know, that's the good part about
let
being the
them fight it
network.
out.
It's sort of like, you know, people say, who am I choosing to be the next pay-per-view
Because
star?
you gotta really choose.
Well,
in essence, you have to choose.
in some
order.
sense, but
The
in
money
other
gotta
ways,
go
As long as they fight on Showtime, that's all he
that's,
cares about.
you know what, they're going to determine the next pay-per-view star. Because you put them in look, whoever wins Thurman Garcia, you know, they're probably the top fighter in the world at 147 pounds, I think.
Absolutely.
So
Hands down.
that, you know, I can say, take all the resources I want and put it on Anthony Joshua. If Deontay Wilder beats him, you know, it doesn't matter what I've done. You know, your performance speaks for yourself.
You really believe in this kid Joshua a lot. I mean, you trying to. I don't know what type of terms of the deal, but it's a long-term deal with Showtime. And obviously, if he loses Joshua, that kind of, depending on how he loses, it might affect that. I mean, are you worried about it?
I mean, it's a risk. I mean, it's a risk in everything that we do. You know, we've got a documentary, and not to completely change the subject, on Ben Simmons. So we started filming with Ben Simmons 18 months ago when he was still a high school senior, which people thought he was gonna turn out well and maybe be the #1 pick, but nobody was sure. So our risk in that point was, what if we shoot 18 months with this guy and he's the number 11 pick?
Right.
You know, that documentary doesn't seem as
It's a risk
interesting.
you have to take, right?
It comes with the territory.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously, Wilder's a Heyman guy, so he's not your guy. Joshua is. But that's a fight that, I mean, 2017, you think it happens?
I think before the end of the year, it's very possible. I think, you know, Joshua's fighting December 10th in the UK. We'll have it on Showtime. He'll fight, I think, Klitschko in March or April. And that's a career-making fight. That's probably the biggest, most important heavyweight fight in a decade. So it's the classic, those boxing matchups that we love. The established guy does he still have enough left in the tank to take down the up-and-coming, you know, the young star coming up? Or is this where the young star realizes his potential?
Sidebar. That just reminded me of something. Let's go, champ.
Let's go, champ.
He's about to get a fight with Lucas Brown for one of the.
I don't. You're right. I don't.
That's my boy though.
Which one? The
Shannon Briggs.
The 13th WBA title? I mean,
Right, you're right. Yeah,
The irregular title.
Yeah,
they
that's
got all
right.
these names or whatever.
the bronze one.
that's
I'm happy for him. I am as a friend. I'm happy for him. But I'm like, wow, how?
yeah, that's the difficulty.
Instagram is powerful. He's
know
an
what?
Instagram champ.
Yeah,
He is. I had to
Yeah,
stop
that's the
following him
stuff.
because there's too many
Nah,
posts a day,
that's
but-
my boy.
That's all right. You know
I
what?
really did.
It's one of those things. You know, the heavyweight division. There's not a lot of depth because all the
They're all
guys.
sloppy, man. I mean, Barack looks better than most of the heavyweights
Well,
out there.
because where
Like you
are
said,
they?
The part.
Yeah, I mean, but where are they? Where are they?
They're
Ezekiel
playing
Elliott.
basketball. They're playing football.
Yeah, you're talking
Seriously.
tight end.
Well,
You
some
know.
they're not even playing football anymore either. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many damn rules and parents are scared of that. But
Yeah.
I mean, listen, boxing is something you got to be born with. This, I think there's always going to be great fighters. There's always going to be people fighting, kids that are cut from that cloth.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to be in the ring and bang.
Look at Deontay Wilder. He was on the basketball court.
Right.
And now look at him now. He's basically the legitimate heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, it's and he also needs that career defining fight.
Right, he
He
does,
needs
absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
Joshua
He wants
win or
it.
the
It
Klitschko.
hasn't
Right,
worked out.
it hasn't worked out. So I think that's why I think those two guys, if they keep winning, there's no way they don't meet. And I look at that, and we've had there's some heavyweight fights that are slugfests. These are two elite athletes.
Skilled fighters.
You
I
know.
mean, I would say outside of them, I like Luis Ortiz. I mean, might not be as cut up as those guys, but he's skilled. He can
Yeah.
punch. I mean, he's a guy that should be in the mix.
Yeah, and I hear this all the time. People say, "Well, I don't know about Deontay's chin, or I don't know about Joshua's chin." You know what? In the heavyweight division, nobody has a chin because it just takes one. That's
Right,
what
of course. That's
you know.
what makes
So
the
it's like
division so great.
you could get knocked out at any point, and it's not because none of them don't have chins. I don't. You let a guy like Eric Molina hit you,
Right.
hit flush on, and you see if you don't buckle a little bit too.